Hello and welcome back to the Argyle Financial Controller Room. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. For those seeking CPE credit today, you must answer at least 3 polling questions and remain on the session for its duration. Polls can be found under the Polls tab on the right-hand side of your console next to Chat. Afterwards, if you are eligible to receive credit, you will receive an email with a link to your certificates. If you have any questions on credits, please email cpe@argyleforum.com. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would love to introduce our moderator, Carla Rodriguez, Controller at YPTC. We are excited to have Carla and our panelists with us for a session titled The Modern Day Financial Controller. Welcome, Carla, and over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here today as the moderator. My name is Carla Rodriguez. I'm a CPA in the New York City area with over 20 years of experience in finance and accounting. For the last 10 years, I focused on financial management roles within growing organizations. Currently, I'm working in the fractional space at both CFO and controller levels within the not-for-profit community at your part-time controller. I'm going to hand it over to the panelists to introduce themselves. Valkyr, let's start with you.
Hello, my name is Valkyr. I'm the VP of Corporate Finance at the Baha Mar, an amazing resort that I really invite you all to come one day to visit us, right? It's an amazing resort. It's a $5 billion investment with a lot of things to do. I've been in the hospitality industry for the last 20 years of my life, starting as a server assistant and climbing the ladder all the way where I am today. Really pleased to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope you guys enjoy the session.
Thanks, Valkyr, and I will take you up on that when you hear from me later for my next vacation plans. Manoj, let's go to you next.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's my privilege to speak in front of such distinguished financial professionals, and I hope you'll find insights shared today valuable and enlightening. My name is Manoj Kumar, and I'm currently serving as a controller at UBS here in downtown Chicago. With over 18 years of experience in corporate finance, accounting, and reporting, I have dedicated my career to advancing financial practices and driving innovation in the field. I'm a strong advocate for the integration of technology in finance and have actively contributed to finance innovation projects, utilizing robotic process automations, AI, and ML. Outside of my professional work, I'm also an author and independent researcher, providing thought leadership articles on the future of finance. It's a great honor to be here today, and I look forward to engaging in meaningful discussions with all of you. Thank you again.
Thanks, Manoj, for that great introduction. Fazal, up to you next.
Thank you, and good afternoon, good evening to everyone. My name is Fazal Julesi. I am a chartered accountant, FCCA, certified internal auditor. Having started off my career, spending some time with KPMG, I moved to the industry where I was tax and compliance manager for over 3 years, and then to controllership with one of the biggest oil and gas service company, where I'm currently serving as a finance controller. It's my pleasure, and outside activity, I do a lot of voluntary services. Currently, I finance and operation manager with about 3 NGOs where I do kind of voluntary services. So thank you, and looking forward to contribute to this discussion.
Thank you for the introduction, and I'm excited to get into the questions today. So we're going to start with how the role of the financial controller has changed over the past 2 years, and what are the new responsibilities. I know for me, I've seen a lot of transformation in the technology adoption and automation segments, but Manoj, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. So over the past 2 years, right, we are hearing only the 2 major buzzwords that I am hearing in finance industry is using of AI and sustainability. So financial increasingly found themselves at the forefront of these projects. They were heavily involved in these projects, and so basically, like why FCs play critical part in implementing these is because controllers handle vast amounts of operational and financial data daily. This hands-on experience positions them uniquely to identify inefficiencies, because wherever the efficiency is there, that there is a chance for automation. So as a financial controller, where you work at the ground level, you know what processes are can be streamlined efficiently, and where you can deploy all these machine learning and the new AI tools. Secondly, the focus is on sustainability, right? So even for the sustainability is not a financial reporting previously, but a wide adoption, right? Like IFRS S1, as you know, in 2025, it will be going live. So whoever is implementing the IFRS, that means it's no longer a non-financial item. So sustainability is getting integrated to financial reporting, and there is a lot of data. I think if you see any of the sustainability reportings, there is around like 180 pages of reports that big companies are nowadays producing. So a lot of metrics should come from finance, and those metrics should be integrated into the finance. We already have our hands full, but sustainability is coming. So keep gearing up. So you will have to deal with a lot of other many metrics that you need to handle. And when it comes to finance, right? And when auditor comes, so those metrics has to be audited, and a lot of audit checks will be happening on those metrics. So they have to be robustness around those metrics that are getting reported. So yeah, financial controllers, they are moving from their traditional accounting to becoming key contributors to these strategic initiatives that shape the future of the business. And not just the business, right? They are shaping the future of the society around the business. So that's what sustainability is all about. It's not just about your business, it's about society at large.
Definitely, I hear that. And I'm seeing some similar as well. Fazal, let's go to you next.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. I think just to add to what Manish said, while we're moving more into integration, I think one of the critical roles that we need to do is to verify the data integrity. Because it's not just having automation, it's not just having dashboards, it's also to be careful with the kind of information that goes into this dashboard and to this automation, because you can still automate the process and you end up spending more than what the initial processes were done. So I think one of my critical roles in the past has been to look at the integrity of the information that are going into this dashboard, and to be sure that these are actually, working line in line with the operation team. Because in my sector, in the oil and gas, most of my activity are with the operations or the business. So it's really a critical role for me to get into that. Same with the sustainability. Yes, it's a new complex. My role is changing more into, not just finance, but into compliance as well, because talking about sustainability, you will need a lot of compliance stuff that needs to be done. So it's no longer having someone stand by as a compliance officer or risk management officer, but you as a controller, you also have to be sent to be compliant, because when the audit comes in, the auditors will be talking to you, and you have to defend this the company. Another aspect I'm seeing increasingly, especially in the area I work in Sub-Saharan Africa, I see a lot of pushback from the tax government, which means that finance controllers are no longer just looking at the books and looking at accounting, but we also need to have our ear and our eye on what is happening in our taxes. I'll give you an example. Most multinationals, most oil and gas companies are multinational companies. Finance controller in the past we just cared about the group reporting, IFRS, US GAAP, and so on. But what happened with the local accounting that generate a lot of exposure? Some people were paying little attention, and I'm seeing this affecting us a lot, because I know about this because of my tax background. When I did the first 3 years as tax So moving to controllership, I see a lot of insight and a lot of input, and I've been able to also speak to my colleagues to have a bit of this knowledge. You have some exposures coming to, let's say, VAT write-off. You should be able to have some of this basic knowledge to be able to, to ask your tax manager, why are we writing off this, why this? So you can see, you can have a lot of savings there. So thank you very much. We talk, contribute in other questions.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I definitely, when you think of, collaboration and compliance and tax knowledge, I think bigger companies, you'll coordinate more with other departments, but smaller companies, you'll wear all those hats as well, the changes across certain organizations. And thank you for that. Valkyr, we'll go to you next.
Yeah. So all these amazing things that is happening today, right, in terms of automations and in the new way of doing accounting, all these basic needs being met by technology, right? It's really transforming our day-to-day job, right? I'm a people person, which means that it's giving us more time to connect. So the financial controller, right, the controller positions and VPs and CFOs, the C-suite, what is happening is that they're becoming business partners, right? More connected to the departments in operations to understand what is happening, what their needs, and then we are creating this synergy that was never seen before. Before you had this very structured type of personalities going around and everybody kind of saying, amen for them. Right now, you see more and more people engaging with the financial controllers, which brings a lot of value to the companies. We are becoming, right, guidance leaders, and that's amazing, right? Because we can go faster when everybody's kind of together. So, yeah, that's how I see this evolution in our roles and department.
Definitely appreciate that. And the thing that I've noticed in my experience is sometimes we have we have that oversight over other departments. We see the reporting, we know how the operations work. So we're able to kind of tie it all together, not just in numbers, but with that value add, like you mentioned. So thank you all for that. We'll go to our next question now. What tools or technologies, including AI and machine learning, have you been focusing on implementing to create more efficient processes? Fazal, we could start with you on that one.
Excellent, thank you. That's a good one. I think the ones we have really been using the past 2 years will be the SharePoint, Power BI. I mean, those are really the ones I use on the day-to-day. Power BI dashboard. Initially, we had to run a lot of analysis on Excel, but with the invention of Power BI, where our data team were able to set up, of course, we worked with them, and I initially said, we did not just get the dashboard, but we were contributors to this dashboard because we're able to verify the integrity of the information. And from time to time, I will sit down to work with my data team to say, okay, the information, to understand the flow of this information. So the one I've really been focusing on is the Power BI, and I can see this has really helped me because instead of running GL from SAP, I just go to the dashboard. With one click, I'm able to see what is happening, to do a refresh, see what is happening with my IBT. And of course, I can drill down to, certain cost line to understand what is really the issue. And of course, I can speak. Also, the SharePoint has really helped us. We are now able to just have a common file where everybody can update, especially on month-end closing. I have to charge my operation team to send in their, let's say in the OFA, we say sign ticket. When you do a job with a client, you have to sign the ticket, and then it is based on that we can recognize the revenue. So having a common dashboard, SharePoint, where everyone can get in to update their data and be able to have a meeting and review the data has also has really helped me. So technically, those are the two I really have been focusing on. But the rest of it, like the AI, I think my data engineer have really been the one piloting that, and it's mostly in the technical field.
That's great, and I agree. Like with the reporting and the Power BI. I think most people think of that, but you bring up a good point about SharePoint. well, I know in my organization, we use SharePoint a lot, and we're able to share with, people across the US and so on. But something else that we use that I wasn't really thinking of, increasing some automation and some AI for collaboration. We use Google Sheets as well across different clients, so we could share on their platform and we could edit the same documents. So that's kind of brought a different element of that collaboration with across the organization. So thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah, Carla, I just wanted to add a point.
Yeah,
Something
sure,
we also like just developed is not operational or worldwide, as the ability for vendors to submit their invoice directly too. So I'm able to receive the invoice from the system that have been created. We also able to submit our invoice on time to submit without necessarily going to the client office to submit. And this has really reduced the cost. We used to have, I think, 5 AR accountant in my department. But today we just have, I think, 2 people who are running after the payment, because we are no longer going to submit invoices, physical invoices to the client. So it's another innovation that my company has introduced, and which I see
great.
A lot of savings there.
Great, thanks for sharing. That's another one. That's great. Okay, Valkyr, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, in terms of specifics, right? So we're still in baby steps in terms of AI and machine learning, because there's plenty of products in the market that promises you the heaven, but be careful, right? Because still there is something very interesting that I always say, right? Your boss doesn't want to blame on a robot whatever is wrong, so that he wants someone to blame, right? And that is us, right? We take responsibility. But again, that's why we need to be very careful with technology. So in terms of what we use here at Baha Mar, right, we like to say that we are pioneers on this technological front for hospitality industry, and then rely heavily on RPAs, which is like a robotic process automation, right? So dumb task being done by a code, sending emails, warnings, things like that. So we use a platform called UiPath, and then we have some consultants that help us to build all these codes to do repetitive tasks. So if you think about what you can do inside of finance, right, here we established 3 pillars, right? We like to say the first one is local automation, something for you guys to consider. Hire a programmer inside of finance. Don't let that for IT, a programmer for finance, right? Then we call that local automation. The second pillar for us, it's RPAs, right? We have a company that help us to build all these robots that can do a lot for us. And the third one, that's not least important, but actually is what we call enhancement of the actual tools that you use. There are plenty of studies that say that you only use 15 to 20% of the systems that you have, and that is a waste of money. So having the vendors actually keep training you on those tools that you have, I mean the C-Suite or QuickBooks or whatever tools that you use, it's very important. So right, instead of automating something that's already a core feature from their system, right, you're going to save a lot of money. You just press one button and then you have it, what was already built in the system. So be careful with these buzzwords that's happening right now. But yes, you need to jump on this train because it's already departed. Technology is here to stay, and then we need to leverage it.
Thanks for sharing that. And I definitely agree with your point about having someone in finance help with the coding, because the same experience I've had with kind of the language or the translation in between the departments. Absolutely. Minaj, we'll go to you to the next one.
Yeah. Add a couple of tools to what other panelists shared. So we heavily use, as I mentioned previously, I'm an advocate of technology in finance. So I've been working on automation projects for like finance transformation projects for a couple of years now. So when I started, it was very difficult. I didn't understand anything about the coding, but now it's easy to know. I mean, initially it will be a little difficult, but the moment you get hands-on, you'll slowly understand how easy it is. So I'm not an expert coder like the data engineers, but yeah, I can at least know what's happening around. So coming to the specific question on tools, right? On the robotic process automation, I think Valkyr already shared about UiPath. In addition to that, we use Alteryx. Alteryx is a very nice tool for automation robotics. it works similarly to UiPath, but it's different vendors, right? So we chose Alteryx and we chose Automation Anywhere. So I'm also a certified bot developer, so I can vouch for Automation Anywhere. So that's a brilliant tool to automate your routine and repetitive tasks. So, and when it comes to business intelligence tool, I think people already covered Power BI. Power BI has an AI facility as of now. So you can play with it and get more insightful information on the data or the slicers that you use on Power BI. And coming to the buzzword, the AI. So unfortunately, in the banks, we can't use AI that is OpenAI, which is available on the market, but we are custom building. So that means we are basically ring fencing the AI to our specific needs, and so that the data will not go out, the sensitive data, because the data that we upload to AI, so it shouldn't even go out of your finance department, not outside of the company. Just when you're dealing with sensitive information, which is for a public companies, it shouldn't even go out of your finance department, not to even like HR or any other department, because it's a sensitive data, right? It's not publicly available. Unless the results are published, it cannot go out. So that's where we are struggling to do the AI, where it will restrict us only to specific areas. So that's we're calling it as like ring fencing. But yeah, we are using Python and other available solutions to ring fence the AI within our, but we are actively working on it. Yeah, and when it comes to the outside tools, I mean, I didn't use them in my company, but I got fascinated by their features when I tested them. So I like the CRM analytics, that's by Salesforce, and they have a AI called Einstein. So that's really good. You should give it a try. You have a in the market, it is available. I think demo is free for like 30 or 40 days. I would suggest to give it a try. Load some data, and you can ask specific questions. That really is good. And I also got fascinated with a tool called a Data Snipper. That's an Excel add-in. So that is also really good. Apart from this, already heard about data rails. That's an FP&A solution that is also like it is useful for like scenarios and planning if you're into budgeting and financial planning.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for all the suggestions. There's so many out there, and I have heard a lot about companies creating their own AI, especially due to sensitivity. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, we'll move on to the next question now. What does successful collaboration and communication with the CFO, stakeholders, and other key players in the business look like? Valkir, we'll start with you.
Sure. So right now, I think it's already known to everybody that we are going through a revolution, right? The revolution of data, right? This technology is really data and intelligence, right? AIs and machine learning, all these things. So we are the generation that is going through, right? We are digesting, and then we are understanding and trying to navigate those waters. So as you can see, the more technology that we put in, right, it gives us more quality time. And again, I'm a people person, to connect, right, to improve people's life, right? Those meaning our employees and our associates, in our companies. So during this different forums and sessions that we participate throughout the year, there was something that very particular that I heard from a labor lawyer. So she was talking about the triad, right, that she likes to call in the companies, which is made of the departments that always touch every single department in the company, which is finance, right, from the numbers perspective, and HR. So from the triad, you have already two main points of contact that should be involved in all the things that happens in the company. So HR, finance, and the operation department. So the triad of success. So what it means, but that you always, right, engaging with your operations without this disconnection that sometimes happens with HR. So if you implement this triad in your companies, in a way, you're always safe. You're always taking care of your associates, and then you are always addressing things properly, right? Taking care of that human side of it. So the thing is taking, advantage of the technology, so you can actually become realistically that business partner, not an audit, right? Type of person. We are not pointing fingers type of professionals anymore, right? We are here to help and to make sure that these companies stay afloat for long periods of time, right? So the way that you communicate, it's very important. Right now we are together, shoulder with shoulder, right? Because we are in this together. This is like a boat that everybody needs to, see the same direction, and then keep going to the same direction. And there is only one way. When you understand that by yourself you're nothing, right? We need our partners to grow together and then to accomplish these amazing goals that we set ourselves, for 1, 2, 3, 5 years. So that's pretty much what I believe that should be the communication, right? It's engaging more with the different peers, and of course, right, and helping them to see the same thing that you believe it's true, or you received from the upper levels.
Thank you for that. And definitely, we're not just messengers, we're business partners. We want to, add value. So definitely thank you for sharing those. Let's see, Manoj, let's go to you next.
Yeah, sure. So Valkit already covered so many things here, and those are like really insightful. So when it comes to successful collaboration, right, with not just CFO and other key stakeholders, so the business partnering is really important, because the financial controllers, they have the data, they have the transactional data, and they know what's happening with the business. Most of the times, business and external stakeholders, or the executive leadership, they are busy making strategic decisions, and they keep losing the ground level reality. So it's very important that they communicate openly with controllers, and the communication should be two-way process. That means the feedback should be exchanged freely. So this reciprocal approach enhances decision making, and most of the time I saw like they really value your decision, because you're talking with the data. I mean, you have so when you speak something, you have a data backup that is providing. So I initially I was like, oh, so if I go there, and do they really value my decision? But when I go with proper data, and they were like really impressed, and they say that, okay, this is really good and we should be doing this. I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Some background noise here. Thank you for your points. Fazal, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I think not to repeat what the other panelists have already said, I think the critical part I've seen in terms of collaboration is business. My company is currently trying to change our title to business partners, finance business partners, rather than controllers, because given the sector we work in, most of my hit or cost impact comes from the technical. So it is critical as us controllers to be, especially on project specific, to be at the design phase on the project, to understand completely the project, and to see where you can already start streamlining the process, and where you can already start mitigating the risks. Giving an example, we had a project where we had a lot of chemicals that were imported, but when they did the planning process was not, they didn't do the planning process correctly, and they had to import a lot of chemicals. When you import a lot of chemicals, it means you have to pay warehousing, it means you have to pay transportation, and so on. When these chemicals are expired, they will equally hit your P&L. So if you are part of that planning from the beginning, you are the planning, you understand the design of the process, you see where you can add, and then you follow up with the technical team, on a day-to-day, to understand the stage on which this project and what are some of the risks you need to anticipate and already report to management is key. Just going to, he mentioned about having a board meeting. Having a board meeting, yes, they'll be talking about a lot of information, but you having that discussion with your operation team, you equally will understand, and you will contribute clearly on what is happening in the company, and also be seen as a business partner, not just someone who come with data, but you're seen as a contributor. You've spoken to HR, you know what's going on there. You've spoken to the tax, you know what's going on there. You've spoken to the operation, you know what is going on there. So at the end of the day, you know the bigger picture, and then because you know the final impact on your P&L, and again, you can be able to run it in your dashboard and just see where the cost is coming from. So I think it's really that aspect that I wanted to emphasize on us as controller being part of the business.
Definitely agree, and can say also, just like what you said, we're not only involved in the process, we're streamlining, we're improving, we're communicating, and wearing all those hats and coordinating with all the departments to be able to drive the results and produce go with the opportunities and make things improved, of course. All right, thank you all for that. Let's go now to the next question. How can the financial controller position be leveraged to generate strategic insights and promote more efficient processes? Manoj, let's go to you.
Yeah, thank you. So this is very interesting, right? So I recently did a project, actually, like we won an award for this. So what we did is we like imported the entire 2 years of ledger data, both from balance sheet and P&L ledgers, and we use certain data modeling techniques. And why I'm saying a little background to this. So why we are doing this project is because we have a question from business and leadership. So we are a bank, right? So the rate environment is changing from the past years. You know how it started 2 years ago, and now how the rate environment is there. When I say it's the interest rates or the Fed rates that I'm talking. So suddenly our certain of the products where we have, which like 2 years ago, we're generating zero, like they are at like zero interest rate, or only like 5 bips or 10 bips interest rates, we're suddenly like generating a lot of revenue, like because the interest rate now is around 4.5%, 5%. So they started generating a lot of revenue, and suddenly executive leadership is asking, like, what's happening? And they want to see like which products are contributing, which products are not contributing. They were traditionally ignored because they never gave any like a significant revenue to the overall business. But because of this rate environment, then suddenly the revenue activity has been spiked up. So they want all the insights. So we don't have much time also, because the environment is changing every quarter. The Fed decisions are keep changing every 3 or like whenever they meet, right? So 65,000 rows of data that's just for a month, and that's only for P&L. So we had downloaded all the data and spent like 3 months analyzing the data. We used a lot of data modeling techniques and arrived at the product profitability. I'm not talking about entity profitability here. So we changed the entity profitability to product profitability. That means now with just the ledger data, they can see which product is giving more revenue, which is not, and we actually have benchmarked them. That means we compared it with the market data. Like just for example, if we are giving a home mortgage loan, and we compared it with the Fed mortgage rates. So if mortgage rate is increasing, even whether my product revenue is increasing or not, right? Whether the revenue is increased because of the rates or because of the fresh loans. So whether people are buying our products or the revenue information. So those insights only FCs can give, because they have the ledger data and so it's not debit and credit, and it's not the fields that are available in the ERP, right? You should think beyond the traditional data. You should come up with the product profitability. That's when the executive management will appreciate you, and I think that's what you should look at it. And this is a great example of collaboration also.
Absolutely, just being able to provide reporting in an insightful way where you are able to add that value of not just reading the numbers. What does this really mean? Definitely agree. Okay, Fazal, we'll go to you next on this one.
Okay, thank you. I think it's critical finance controller role, as you we called ourselves finance controller, but I think I'll be calling with the term my company is calling business partners, because I think it's really critical for us to understand the business. And each time I open my P&L, look at my processes, I'm looking at cost savings initiatives. At the end of the day, the management, the boards, the one higher profit, and higher profit might be with same resources, I can say with little or no investment. So it is critical for us to constantly look at our processes and to see what some of these cost savings initiative that we can have in order to, to generate more IBT and so on and so forth. And one of these that I've been able to leverage so far, and my company is really trusting me in, is to review our contracts with clients and vendors. Looking at the contract terms, looking critically at the contract terms. Yes, I know we have legal, that they will look at it from the legal perspective, but I equally look at it from the finance perspective to see, okay, if we're accepting this clause in this contract, what is the cost implication of this? And sometimes I have been able to say, no, we are not accepting this, just because I'm able to project the implication to my management, and which the sales side will not understand because they have a target to meet. But of course, you as finance, you also not want to take a risk that will be higher than the risk appetite of the company. So at the end of the day, we are able to leverage on that to come to a conclusion with the sales team to say, okay, look, yes, we know we have a target to generate this, but look at the profitability, just as Manuel said, look at the possibility of this contract, taking into account the risk factor of it, the risk of accepting this. And you see, by so doing some of these decisions at the end of the day, the sales team are coming back to say, oh, we did a great job because finance was able to do that. And sometimes, yes, I like call you, yeah, we shouldn't, we know when we go to finance will want to reject that. But because of the contribution you see, and later on we see the implication, is really, really helpful. And I encourage everyone to really be changing that notion of using just the general ledger and so on to really be a business partner.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Valkyr, we'll go to you next. Actually, we have just 3 minutes before Q&A, so.
Quick. So I'm going to challenge you, right? I'm going to challenge you, the 55, people that is in our session. So we, as controllers and financial leaders, we hold the key to the gates, right? We decide what goes and what time, and then we hold a lot of power, right? So the challenge is this: getting to know the department leaders, your business partners, enough to know what are their needs before they ask. Imagine what that means. And I'm gonna leave you with this challenge, right? Get to know to your business partners to such a point that you don't need them to ask you for anything, right? You already know, and then that's what is true help means from our. Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, so I think it's a good stopping point to start with the Q&A. The first question here is how much time it will take to implement the typical RPA. I know Valkyr and Manoj, you spoke about that. So either one of you want to start there with that?
Sure. So the first thing that I always tell our partners is there is a period of time when you are contracting those companies that it depends on your structure. It could take a year, whatever. It's your timing. But after that, less complex and mid-complex processes, it could take from 2 weeks to 6 weeks, right? It depends on those levels. And more complex ones, it could take from 2 months to 6 months. More than that is because maybe you don't know what you want, which is okay as well. But then you need to be very attentive for this type of automation, because you have consultants, you have the tools, so you need to know what to do. So that's kind of what I see around here.
I think I'll add to that, and thank you for your response. I'll add, when you mention consultant, the planning is everything. Sometimes they're not, you spend less time planning and more time doing, and then you wind up spending even more time on that. So definitely the more you plan, the better you are to execute the transition. For the next question, I'll put over to Manoj. How do you handle fixed costs and indirect costs with productivity profitability?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's where a lot of time will go, right? Like direct cost. I mean, so we can put revenue, but when it comes to direct cost is simple. Like you already identify the cost to the product. But when it comes to indirect cost or other regular cost, the key here is the allocation. You should have the allocation methodologies correctly. I mean, every entity we have to define their allocation methodologies based on probably one allocation methodology you can use is the revenue, right? Like how much revenue each product is getting. So probably based on that you can start, but every entity has their own policy of defining these allocations. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next question, how financial controller handle multiple tasks from financial planning, reporting and analysis, and stakeholder management? Fazal, I'll send that one to you.
Thank you very much. I think with technology, it's very easy these days because you are able, like I said, in my case, we are really technology focused. I'm able to, the dashboards, Power BI are able to do a lot of things. So I put, and also, we shouldn't forget the importance of the shared service center. I don't know how many people are in the panel that the companies use shared service centers, but most of the data processing are done by that shared service center. And what I do, a controller will just look at those data, and if I have anything that is unclear to me, I'll probably will go back to them. Now, my greater time is spent with the business because that's what I really do. Sit with them to do the planning, annual planning, quarterly planning. We do the ROFO. We try to estimate and see what's happening, and of course, on a month basis, I will follow up to understand what's going on. Also with them to review contracts. So it's an embodiment of all, sitting with them in the planning, making sure the contracts that we are submitting, we are really protected. And of course, the profitability has been correctly estimated. And of course, I'll follow up to see how these contracts are going and how much revenue we are trying to do by giving them the analysis at the end on how much we'll be able to generate from this contract.
Sure. Thank you. Next question we have here. How do you see the evolving role of financial controllers impacting traditional finance department structures? I know I could say for this, my departments, I've seen over the past couple of years shift to different kind of skill sets. We have, less of the data entry and more of like the technologically savvy, you finding new systems, using new systems, finding new ways to automate. Again, a different kind of creative brain to streamline, and how do we make things better and improve versus, typing from here to there. So that's one big thing I've seen, definitely. And I think in general, people have heard of, talent being such a new kind of stage of how do we find talent? How are we sourcing talent? And I think that's a big thing because it's the role itself is evolving and the departments are evolving. But I'd love to also welcome the panelists to answer that as well, to let us know what they're seeing.
Sure, I can add here pretty quick, right? So when you talk about effective change, be careful because anything that comes from top down, you're gonna have a lot of difficult times. So be smart, participate your team in those big decisions because these really impact their lives. So bottom up, and this is from my experience, always it's better when you get the buy-in because there is a lot of let's say fear about losing their jobs, right? And then you need to make sure that they understand that we are automating tasks, not people, right? So bottom up, participate them, and then boom, you have the engagement, and then it's amazing from there.
Great points. Communication, transparency, empowerment. I really appreciate that. Anyone, Fazao, do you want to jump in on that, or?
Yeah, I think Baka already said that. I just wanted to make mention of the empowerment. You try to always empower your team, even though as technology is changing, you also make sure that your team is also, changing, because you will need to give them the adequate training to be able to navigate those dashboards and so on.
Thank you. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left. I think I'm going to try one question and maybe have Manoj answer this, since he didn't answer the last one. How can we effectively balance operational duties with the strategic responsibilities now expected of us?
Yeah, so, okay, this is very interesting. So, I mean, you can always do your regular activities, but that doesn't give value, right? When senior management sees you doing the same activity again and again, they don't see any efficiency in that. You should be involved with strategic projects. So I know taking projects it's an effort, right? So I know it's an effort, but that's where the recognition comes. That's where people will start seeing you as a thought leadership, and the value comes in here. That will take you long in your career as well. Just doing the same thing again and again will not take you anywhere. So it's important to get involved in the strategic projects. You have to take time. You have to find a way. You have to get rid of so that's where the RPA and other automation tool comes, right? When you're doing the same activity, it doesn't matter anything. So I know, like, there is another question here where they're saying the RPAs are already embedded, but there are a lot of operational activities which are not in ERP that can be automated through RPA, and then you get a lot of free time, and you should get involved with see there what is the objectives and
Thank you. Great points. Fazal, we have just about 3 minutes. Do either of you want to chime in very quickly on this one?
Yeah, maybe. Of course, like I said, depending on the company you work for, and like I said, we mostly have those operational tasks done by shared service, right? And most of the tasks I do are more strategic, and also believing that before becoming a finance controller, you must have gone through the operational part. So as a finance controller, you're more strategic. You're not looking at looking at those operational aspects of it. So your focus should be more on how did you influence decision from operation and from senior management, because you're like a gateway from senior management and operation and also your staff. So that should be your focus on trying to influence the decision, not looking at doing the basics financial stuff, because you definitely will have maybe a receivable or AP accountant or treasury accountant who are doing that. So that's not, to me, that's not really your job. But depending on the setup, there are some companies that are, the people are still doing all of that, but it depends on the company.
Yeah, and then don't close yourself for at least to hear all these vendors have to say. Take advantage from everything that we said here, all these different vendors. Call them, have a talk, right? Understand their product. Don't have concept of something because you think ain't gonna work, right? So talk to them, be curious, understand what they can offer, and see how that can fit your needs, right? How can that help you? Because remember, the automation train, it's gone already, right? We can't be playing catch up. You need to be on board of this as soon as possible so you can free your time to really focus in what matters.
Thank you so much for that. And everyone out there, thank you so much for listening. And we had such a great time. I had a great time moderating today, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you all so much for such an insightful panel. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following the event. Our next session will begin shortly, so please click on the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to the next session, and we look forward to seeing you there.